Aaron Newirth at Aaron's PS4.
Hey, it's nice to have the show back.
Yes, it is. And our newest member, Rich at Chubtoad01. How you doing, Rich?
You're not here, and neither am I.
No, we're all here. We're all recording. This guy's showing your picture and mine.
Who took at Chubtoad?
I know, I asked about too.
Do you follow that Twitter feed? Because I might do it.
No, everything for me online is Chubtoad01. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, what have you.
All right.
It's an MTG or Dungeons & Dragons thing, right?
No, Magic the Gathering.
Magic the Gathering.
So the coolest one of them all.
So in case you needed any refresher, folks, yes, we are indeed all nerds. So we're thrilled to be back, and what an awesome episode to be back on, by the way.
Very good episode.
This was episode 501, No Sanctuary, directed by Greg Nicotero, written by current showrunner Scott M. Gimple, and this was a lot of fun. This is one of the best episodes they've done in a long time. I think even Ross, who can join us tonight because he had some other things he had to take care of, he sent an email, his favorite episode in a long, long time.
I agree. In terms of just fun, entertaining Walking Dead episode, for sure. You have the drama's there, but it's really just let's get the let out. And as much as I like seeing the character drama play effectively, sometimes it's just nice to have a fun episode filled with lots of tension, met with lots of action to go with it.
Great zombie killing action, great cannibal killing action, lots of emotions, high energy, just good baby neck snapping fun.
Jeez, that's a little dark. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot as well. I liked some of the ways they told the story. I mean, until the exposition by Denise Crosby, they didn't really even come out and tell you, straight out what's going on in Terminus. A lot of great zombie action, which is kind of a Nicotero, trademark for the episodes he tends to direct. Usually have really good action sequences. One of the best episodes I've seen in a long time. I'm glad they went out of the park recently because they needed to after that kind of drag we had in the second half of the fourth season there.
It's funny you mentioned, and we'll get to this I guess in the episode, but you mentioned Greg Nicotero kind of his direction, the action aspect. He tends to take kind of the slower episodes. It seems like this is somewhat of a break from his style of episode to really just kind of get the he likes to show the zombies. He likes to really put the display on the walkers in general. But in terms of big major action scenes, I think he did the premiere last year, correct? I think season 4 premiere.
Sounds right.
So,
I think that and this episode are probably the biggest displays of him taking on an action heavy episode of the ones he's directed. That said, he does a great job, so I'm very happy to see it.
And interesting enough, we'll get into this when we get into the summary here shortly, but one of my favorite zombie effects in the show was in this episode, also one of my least favorite, but we can get into that.
Okay.
But yeah, in general, zombie effects for this episode were fantastic. Lots of cool new stuff that we haven't really seen before, or in different ways, or just shown slightly altered from what we've seen. So I like that quite a
He
bit.
did direct the season premiere of last year, so I just looked that up.
Cool.
Just a quick comment on what Jim had said, because I had a few people at work that were saying the same thing about after the slow burn that we had the second half of last season. Now, I felt there was some pacing for the second half last year, but I enjoyed certain aspects of each individual episode, but I do agree that it was a little slow. But after this season opener, how they just kind of busted everything open, it made it worth that build-up to me of that second half of the season and then the wait, because this was just phenomenal. It paid off in spades.
It did in what I thought would take half a season, one episode, which is pretty impressive.
I completely agree, and something that I do like. We talked about this last season, where it was a kind of a slow build to whatever they're going to in that second half because you had all the different characters kind of disparate from each other. But what it was doing was basically making up for the fact that the show really hadn't had a chance to build the characters. And as much as I had an issue with the way it did that for some of them, such as the Beth and Daryl episode, which I know you guys like a lot more than I did, by having a lot of that groundwork kind of laid in that last half of the season, now we really can just kind of deliver on what those characters what we already know about them. So we can kind of get into more fun stuff like an episode like this. Ideally, we'll still get the more character-focused episodes, which I'm sure we'll get because that's the kind of show this is, regardless of how good it accomplishes those things. But it is nice that because of the shaky groundwork based on the showrunners going in and out, now we've had a half a season where we can kind of really build that foundation up, and now get to this season where hopefully we can really pay off that character development and while also still building on it, but also still having fun, which is what the show should be.
I think that's cool that they did all this with the groundwork by breaking up the characters and focusing on them individually, like you say, Aaron, to give more characterization to them. But I think if we'd gone another half season with that same structure and the same thing going on, that would have been too much. So that's
Totally agree.
I'm glad they covered a lot of ground with the season opener. They started out strong with the season. A lot of things went down. Like I said, we get the synopsis, we'll get a little more granular, but I'm glad that they kicked up the speed a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate the characterization as well. I mean, that's what makes Walking Dead worth watching, is that you care about the people. But now I'm just glad that we got this as a kickoff to this premiere, kicking into high gear like this.
For sure.
So should we get into the synopsis, folks?
Let's do it.
Alrighty, so like I already said, I'll reiterate, this is episode 501, No Sanctuary, written by Scott Gimple, directed by Greg Nicotero. We start in kind of an odd way for the show in a flashback. We get the title card then, or not necessarily a title card, the setting card then, and we see a flashback with Gareth, who we met last season, and his brother Alex. He was the guy who got shot when Rick was holding him at gunpoint. They're all locked in a train car, very similar. In fact, at first we don't even realize it's them. We think it's either our group or somebody in another car by our group, but it is the termites themselves locked in a train car. And Alex says he regrets putting up the signs that led to Terminus, and Gareth reports that they're only being humans. Alex then asks him, "What are we now?" And then we flash forward to now.
Now, real quickly, two things. First of all, do you think it was a misstep to try to make Gareth sympathetic by adding this flashback at the beginning?
I think
was it kind of like when they tried to make the governor sympathetic in a similar way?
I think it's too early to tell because we don't know what else we're going to see from Gareth this season. Who I mean, we'll get to this, but Rick, he winged him, he killed Gareth, so we're going to see. And he was announced as a recurring character or whatever in the news over the summer, so we know we're going to see more of Gareth.
And there are definitely scenes with him in the trailer that weren't in this episode.
Exactly, yeah. So we're going to see more of his character, and by setting him up now, I don't think it's at all a misstep. I did have problems with the way they handled the governor, but so far with Gareth, I think they're doing the only way they can by just giving us, teasing out some information.
Also, you say sympathetic, I'd say more background. I don't think they're going for sympathetic so much as just so you understand, here's what happened. It's still awful, they're still monsters, but this is why.
That's a good way to put it.
The second question I had, the people that terrorized, the original people of Terminus, I guess had good intentions and wanted to actually give sanctuary to people. Do you think the people that came in and terrorized them and dehumanized them, do you think that's Negan and his crew?
I kind of thought that because of the ending of the episode when they have the flashback again, because man, that looked like Negan right out of the comic book. But then again, Scott Gimple on Talking Dead nixed that by saying, no, that's the tattoo-faced guy that later in the episode.
So that's what to be fair, I watched this episode 3 times to write the written review, and I was so certain that's that's the tattoo guy the whole time. I kept coming back to that thought. And if it was Negan, they would make a hell of an intro for him. They wouldn't just have him kind of randomly walking in the shadows, somebody you've never heard of before, just announce himself. They really.
There was a lot with bats in this episode.
Yeah, and I mean, I wasn't thinking it was the introduction of the character. At first I was like, oh man, they're giving us just a taste of tease. But I'm just so excited to eventually see that character because he's just been a great part of the comic book. I do have to say on the other point of the opening, I was a little bit confused because my ever so wonderful DVR cut off the title card then. So I start and I'm like, well, who are these people and what is going on? And then it goes now, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it was a flashback.
Yeah, and it was cool just because you start, and I kind of hinted at this, but you start with no context except for it's pretty clear in the train car. You've got screaming and you've got Hush talking, and it was a great unsettling way to start it to then give you this reveal of who it is, and then you're immediately back in the action, which was really neat. You didn't have to spend a lot of time with it. Yes, you had 2 flashbacks in the episode, and I'd say it was under 2 minutes total, probably under a minute 30.
They were quick flashbacks, yeah.
I do like the way they broke it apart. Just said then. and then now.
Yeah, keep it vague,
That's cool.
but
Right.
Give us just enough, which is nice.
I think it just shows that, I mean, Scott Engel, he's the showrunner, but I mean, just whoever's, really working on the team involved in really building up the series at this point, it seems like they do have a clear focus on how to make this work, and it's less of a, I want to do it one way while someone else wants to do it another way, like, Darabont versus AMC or however you want to phrase it. It seems more like there's a cohesive thought of, like, we need to go this way. That's the impression that I'm getting so far, and I like that.
So, in the present, we see, again, our group of Rick and everybody else who's in the train car as of last season. They're still in the train car, and they are gearing up. It was a nice little prison breakout type setup. Unfortunately, I think it was a little bit ruined if you'd seen the trailer, you knew it was coming next, but it was still really cool to see them fashioning weapons out of everything. They were MacGyvering it up, using every little last bit of stuff around them to make weapons, make escape plans, make anything they could possibly do, and it was all for naught because when they're preparing to attack them, the termites just open up the roof of the car, drop in a smoke grenade or a flashbang or whatever it was, and they just knock them out that way and then drag 4 of them out of the car. The 4 they drag out are Daryl, Glenn, Rick, and Bob Stuckey.
As a guy that makes a living off processes and process efficiency, I have to give my hats off to the Terminites because, they have everything down pat. I'm assuming that they've had plenty of practice, but just to be able to get them geared, these guys are probably going to come running out of the train car at us. Let's devise a way to stop them and immediately have that hatch open for the smoke grenade. I thought that was good, and throughout the entire episode, everything is just so industrialized and process driven for them. It's very, very strange.
Well, it's like a dark, twisted version of what Rick's group could turn into, where they define some kind of sanctuary. I mean, it's essentially the prison, except they've gone to the extreme of eating people and doing things a horrible way, as opposed to having a system of 3 rules and inviting you to help them work and grow crops and things like that. It's this weird, twisted reality that counters Rick's methods, which have obviously altered given his disposition these days. But just interesting to see.
Well, that's something they've always toyed with, is like the moral gray areas. I mean, how different is this from the governor's town if they had cannibalism? I mean, and I really appreciated something about this. At first, until like I said, it was alluding to before, until we get to Denise Crosby, because it's like that bit of exposition or whatever. While Carol shoots her in the leg and stuff. We get Carol breaking, like walking through the rooms, and we also see when the 4 break out and they start to walk through the rooms. The rooms are telling the story. Like they're Carol's in the room with all the belongings left over from all the people that they've killed, and then she's in the room with all the names. It almost reminded me of like the way they tell story in a video game like BioShock or something, where you get all the story cues from the environment.
Oh yeah, it's nice to see. It's nice to see a show. It's nice to see the show deliver on visual storytelling rather than hit you over the head, which it still kind of does at some points in this episode, but not nearly as hard as it has in the past.
Show don't tell, as they say.
Exactly.
So like I said, the 4, Rick, Daryl, Glenn, Bob, they get brought separately from the rest of the group into let's just call it a kill room, a butchering room, including several other captives, including Sam, Hippie Sam, who we saw last season in the episode where Rick kicked Carol out. This is Robin Lord Taylor, who is currently on Gotham as the Penguin, and so it was very nice to see him again, even if I have to admit I didn't recognize him. I knew him from somewhere, but I couldn't tell exactly where, and he dies first. They hit him in the back of the head with a baseball bat, then slit his throat, and drain him into the trough.
And you can tell this is not the first time they've done this. They have the entire system down, and not only that, when Gareth comes in, he's like asking about the round counts and stuff. It just looks like another day at the office.
Yeah, very cavalier.
I mean,
does,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. It's just very offhand. It's like they've done this dozens of times before. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Well, it's not just the repetition and doing it time and time again, but the more you can industrialize it and dehumanize it, the less bad you have to feel about it. It's a psychological thing as much as it is a repetition thing.
Yeah, and to speak back to the Robin Lord Taylor character, being one that does watch Gotham, I was very aware that here he is. That's if the camera was pointing him out, and it took me maybe half a second to be like, oh, that's Penguin. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, he's the blonde guy with the girlfriend and stuff from the last episode. And so it was neat just because I'm seeing him every week now as a person that watches Gotham. I'm seeing him every week, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, he was Walking Dead for that one episode. So now he's gone.
I thought that this entire scene with the trough and the killing and everything was very well done. And later when Greg Nicotero talks about the fact that they gave it the alien treatment, our 4 characters did not expect to have the practical effect of the blood and whatnot. They give them more of that shocked look as the blood's coming down the trough. I thought that was a pretty brilliant way to go.
And yeah, it's brutal. Like that was we've seen some stuff on the show. I mean, we've seen little kids getting killed, but watching people get their throats cut and no cuts away from the camera, like that's some intense stuff for a show watched by millions on television.
So they work their way down the line, same thing, hit to the back of the head with the bat, slice open the neck until they get to Glenn, and of course, anyone who reads the comics, when you see Glenn in a baseball bat, you think things, and I'll keep it as vague as that. And they're just about to hit Glenn with the baseball bat when, like Jim mentioned before, Gareth walks in and he starts asking about the round counts. As much as I could tell, this was from when they were, corralling our crew through the kind of maze of Terminus last season. They keep a count of how many rounds did you expend, so they can keep track of everything. It's very clinical, very utilitarian, and very much like everything else. It's very industrialized in this society.
Did you have any thought that we'd be losing any of the main characters in this episode?
I expected it, Bob. I thought Bob was going to go, and having him at the end of the trough when they first brought him in, I thought, oh, he's first. And when they started at the other end with Robin Lord Taylor, I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I really expected it to be Bob. And then I kind of, after the entire episode, was thinking, right towards the end, Carol really was the focus of the badassery in this episode. Maybe this will be her swan song, and they're going to kill her off. And I'm kind of predicting that before midseason we will see that. But that was really my only thoughts. The character I really wanted to go, I wasn't going to go. So.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, at this point, how expendable are any of these characters? And yes, they can always make any of them expendable. Bob, I thought the same thing you did. I thought he was going to get it mostly when he opened his mouth and actually got to talk to Gareth. I thought Gareth was going to kill him there. And the show has, let's face it, not the greatest history with its blackmail characters and just killing them off willy-nilly and replacing them with another one. So there was a lot of things there, but at the same time, I can agree with you on Carol. It seemed like maybe they're setting her up for, going out guns blazing, which was pretty cool. But who's really expendable of everybody who's in that car at the moment? Maybe Rosita and maybe Tara, but that's about it. And they weren't really in a position to be killed like our, more front and center characters like Daryl and Rick were in this episode. So it doesn't bother me that nobody died in this episode, but at the same time, we'll see. We'll see as we go along. I liked it as it was. Let's put it that way.
When I got past the trough scene, that's what I figured. Yeah, no one's gonna die in this episode. There's just gonna be a whole shebang of action with no real consequences for the main group.
Now, I thought the producers and whatnot of the show had teased all summer long that the main character was going to die in the season opener. I mean, am I wrong?
That's how to get people to watch.
Yeah, but
that's what I think it is.
Continue to lie to me, and it'll be like, okay, yeah.
Well,
I don't know that I've seen anything about that.
They didn't really lie to you, though. I mean, there was like random reports, like, will Norman Reedus die? But that's not coming from Team Gimple or anything. That's just people speculating based on random quotes and interviews and drawing it out into much larger quotes than it needs to be.
Rich?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. You can't believe everything you read on the internet.
What? But the internet doesn't
lie?
lie?
To you. I know.
All right.
It's a tough thing to take, I know, but take it from me. You can't believe everything just because it's on the internet. Doesn't mean it's true.
Well,
Except for this podcast, of course.
Oh, yeah, the podcast.
Oh, absolutely.
This is nothing but truth. Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, according to the internet, like Daryl's also like he's super gay and has like 4 kids in Oklahoma. I don't know what's going on with Daryl these days. Like the internet's crazy in regards to whatever going on with Daryl, let alone anybody else in the show. I don't worry about it.
So getting back to things that actually happened in the episode,
Yeah.
like we said, Bob tries to plead and say, hey, look, we got this guy who knows how to fix everything. If we get him to Washington, it's going to be fine. Gareth is nonplussed. He's more interested in that bag Rick buried in the woods. And I like this reveal of how aware of everything Gareth was, and just, we were watching you in the woods. We saw you bury the bag. We saw you with the bag go back into the woods. We know you buried it, so just tell us what was in it. Tell us where it is. Rick threatens him. Rick says he lists out everything that was in the bag when there's a knife to Bob's eye, and gets right down to, what was the last thing? Was it a red hammer or baseball bat? It was a red something.
Red
machete with a red handle.
And he tells Gareth that that's what he's going to kill Gareth with, which I think we can at least see some, expect to see some revisiting of that threat later in the season. I would not be surprised. And then at that moment, when they're just about to kill Glenn for the second or third, maybe even fourth time, gunfire erupts outside, followed by an explosion. And I think that's when we cut to our opening credits. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
And they're brand new opening credits with a lot of Terminus in them, which was kind of surprising, especially given the ending of this episode. But did we have the same opening credits for the last 2 seasons?
No.
Maybe it was the first same for 1 and 2, new for 3, new for 4, and then new for 5. Is that right?
That sounds
Might have seemed like 2 seasons because they break it up into 2 halves.
That's probably what it was. Yeah, you're probably right on money on that.
Did you think it was very Terminus? I thought it was very non-specific, if anything.
I thought there was like shots of the candle room, shots of the kill room. I think there was definitely a number of shots that evoked Terminus to me.
All right.
But I don't think that really matters. Even if they never go back to Terminus the whole season, which I don't know that I'd necessarily say I'd expect. I think they might show up at some
I
point.
think if anything, like flashbacks to Terminus,
Yeah.
necessarily go back.
Even if they don't, it's not a problem.
No,
it's showing you where they were at the beginning of the season. It doesn't matter what's in the
Well,
opening
I
credits.
think the images are even fairly just more like this is horror imagery as opposed to like
This is this world now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, opening credits, come back to the show, and we're back on the train tracks with Carol, Tyrese, and baby Judith. They see a herd of walkers heading towards Terminus, and so they start to follow them. We quickly get the information that Tyrese is still not comfortable with killing because zombies or human. He's still very shaken up by the whole incident with looking at the pretty flowers last season.
Well, there's also, first you should mention that they hear gunshots, and that's what first they think the herd is coming after them. Then a bunch of gunfire is what draws the herd toward Terminus, and that's where they kind of time it with what happened in the season ender. If you time that, with the gunfire with Rick and then trying to escape and getting caught.
Which I love the fact that they made the season ender and season opener seamless like that. No, fooling around in between, nothing, giving us exposition of all kinds of stuff other than that now and then. I'm glad that, it's right where we left off. And as far as Tyrese goes, he's the one character that I was kind of hoping would go, because, and it's upsetting because he was one of my favorites from the comics, and he just has not delivered. He's turned into a mashup of Shaggy from Scooby-Doo and Mr. T.
I got nothing to add to that.
So they're making their way through the woods, and they encounter a guy named Martin, who's one of the termites, and as Aaron pointed out off recording, he was wearing Glenn's hat, which I did not even pick up on, so very good catch there, Aaron.
You watch it 3 times, you start to see these things.
Fair enough. They find him at this cabin, and they overhear him on the walkie-talkie talking to, I believe, Mary, but it's not really important exactly who he's talking to, about the lady with the sword and the kid with the hat. So they take him captive, reminding him, hey, we're friends with the lady with the sword and the kid with the hat. And Carol goes off to check up on Terminus and see what's happening, and she leaves Judith and Tyrese there with Martin, who is tied up with, I believe it was a car seat belt, as best I could tell.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and this was a good callback to season 1 when Carol goes out and smears herself on a poncho with zombie guts and whatnot. It just goes to show that she's been paying attention in the her character evolving, and just set the tone for she's about to just go kick some butt.
And let's not forget, she was living on her own for how many weeks after Rick kicked her out? Like, she's probably the most capable person out there, solo, aside from maybe Michonne on our show.
I mean, it's a good representation of just like how far people have to go in terms of surviving these days as well. And even like Michonne did it last season too, when she made 2 new pets to kind of cloak herself in the Walker world and whatnot. All that said, I did kind of sigh when we leave Tyrese alone with the baby and Jerky guy tied up and not gagged or not knocked out. It's like, okay, now we're gonna get to the stuff where he convinces Tyrese of something, and he distracts him. And it's just like I saw where that was all going. I like the eventual results of it, but at the same time, I was like, oh come on, Carol leaving this guy alive and ready to talk.
Well, I agree with you that yes, it was obvious something was going to happen. I was unclear enough on exactly what that I was fine with it. Like, I agree. Was he going to talk him down? Was he going to do exactly what he did? Was he going to convince him to leave like he tried to? I wasn't sure, and because I wasn't sure exactly what it was going to be, I was fine.
What's funny is the guy, he knows what I know. He knows that he should kill him. Why is he he asked the question? Why am I still alive? You should have killed me. It's the kind of thing where he's written to be me screaming at the TV. Apparently, that's apparently what this character is.
So Carol, like Jim said, smears herself in zombie guts on a makeshift poncho, and she heads towards Terminus. She kind of walks with the zombies for a while. She's very careful. She gets up to the fence, and she sees Rick and crew being pulled out of the train car. I was a little bit unhappy with the editing here, only because it was not clear how much time was passing, and so it went from her seeing them pulled out of the train car, she walks around the corner, she fires on the thing, I was like, hey, 20 minutes of stuff happened in between here. But in rewatching it, it was clear enough what was happening. The time had passed. I just wish it had been a little bit more clear. But regardless, she had taken the fireworks from Martin. We forgot to mention this, but Martin and a bunch of other people were setting up fireworks outside of Terminus to draw the zombies away after all the gunfire, which was, again, very industrious, very smart, very clever. Exactly, Aaron. And so she'd taken the fireworks, she spots a propane tank, and she waits till, the zombies are already up there and the termites are starting to deal with them. She fires on the propane tank, and then using the barrel of another gun, she fires one of the fireworks directly at it, ignites the propane, big explosion, the roof of Terminus is on fire, zombies are everywhere, panic erupts, and this is, of course, the explosion and gunfire we had heard in the beginning of the episode when Glenn was just barely saved.
Dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
I was just thinking that and didn't add it in. But I think the time is explained. I mean, because my understanding from the way Terminus is laid out, that train car was either to the side or the back of the compound, and the time it would have taken her to sneak around to the front to where the propane was in the entrance into Terminus.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. And I
just wish there'd been 1 or 2 more cuts from seeing them to walking around the corner and blowing up, because being a direct cut made it a little bit less clear how much time was passing, which I thought would have been better. Again, this wasn't bad. It was just an eyebrow-raising moment for me the first time I watched the episode of, wait, what now? She just saw them 10 seconds ago. But
this is probably my favorite scene out of the entire episode, is this her setting that explosion and just mass chaos going off. So the sequence was great to me.
Yeah, it may have been a very very accurate shot with a firework, but the shot of the shot of her just in the frame with that explosion going off was amazing. And it's especially because remember the first season where really the CDC was that was pretty weak, which makes it's this is such a great step up. If I don't know, resources were used better, the budget's just bigger, which is probably the case. It just looked great. This explosion of walkers flying in the air as Carol's just sitting there waiting to make her next move. Just a great executed sequence.
If I remember correctly, the CDC explosion suffered from looking very CGI.
Yeah,
am I remembering that correctly?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this explosion seemed if it was CGI, it was really well done. It looked like it was a practical explosion to me.
Could have been.
So,
But, it's seamlessly built together. So.
Yeah.
Well, in all fairness,
It
the
looked really
CDC was a final episode to the 6-season test run of, or 6-episode season 1 test run of the series that hadn't really been established or how well it would do yet. So it probably didn't really have the budget. But
It was also a building they couldn't actually explode, where this was a propane tank that they actually could. You know, it was a foam fake propane tank in the first place. So
Yeah,
you
but,
know,
you work with what you got. And they did that a lot better here than they did there. So that's what it is.
I will not disagree in the least. You're absolutely correct. So we then get some more scenes of Carol being just awesome as she makes her way through the compound, posing as a zombie, sniping people when she can, and taking them out full automatic gunfire when she can. And then she makes her way through the rooms, like I think it was Jim was talking about earlier. You know, kind of showing instead of telling the story until she gets to Terminus Mary, Denise Crosby from Star Trek: The Next Generation. We talked about some last season.
Well, I think you glossed over a couple things here real quick, if you don't mind. When she's in the property room or whatever, the leftover room, you know, she is that Herschel's watch or whose wristwatch is that?
I'm not sure because Herschel's watch was the pocket watch.
Yeah, we
which
see that in
Glenn
this
has.
episode too.
I thought it was going to be the watch that the exchange between her and Rick when they separated, but I thought that one was a leather band. At least that's in my mind what I'm remembering.
I don't remember.
That's the impression I got. That was the Rick Carroll watch, which is what gave her, which clued her in on the fact that I mean, she already knew that the termites were, evil, but I think she got a pretty good understanding that they're just taking people, taking their things, and harvesting them. That kind of
Right.
emphasized the point that she should not be questioning if what she's doing is the right thing. That's
And she grabs Daryl's crossbow.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
not was
That's
the sword nowhere to be found? Are we not getting the sword? Is that
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I was really
No,
concerned. This is my concern.
Because Michonne, they're out of Terminus, and Michonne does not have that sword by the end
Well,
of the episode.
that's what I was trying to remember. Usually I'll watch the last season leading up to the season premiere, but I didn't this time. Did she lose the blade off of that sword? Did one of the termites snap it or something when they captured her? Because I could swear her little wooden double lightsaber Sith thing looks like the middle of it looks like the handle from the katana.
It was the scabbard. It was the scabbard.
Oh,
on the
okay,
side.
okay.
Yes.
She had
And
the sheets still, but yeah, I kept saying like when they left Terminus, like I kept speaking from Michonne, like, did you grab a sword? Where's the sword? You got the bow, right? You got the crossbow. Where's the sword?
And not to make this too dark in an episode about cannibals and zombies and all this stuff, but you know, going through that room, particularly the one Jim's talking about with all this stuff, you know, just goes back to the institutionalizedness of this. It was very much like a World War II concentration camp where you have the piles of shoes and the piles of watches and the piles of luggage. It was very creepy and evoking that, and again going to the mental state of these people living and working there.
Oh yeah, this was not lost upon me at all.
I would hope not.
I didn't even write about this just because I don't feel like going down the camp of making.
No, I
all
don't
kinds of
think it's- I just
comparisons,
wanted
right?
to-
Yeah, I certainly see where that is. Yeah, I mean it's there. It's layer all over it in terms of the imagery.
When they get to the camera room, what again is written on the walls? Do you remember? Is it like
Never again.
Never again.
never again, just we, or
Never,
like we?
never trust. Like that's,
Never trust.
Yeah, that's one of them. There's like
And
three
then
in there. Yeah.
Just Us, wasn't it? Just Us or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah, it was like three things.
Yeah.
One of them was like I know one of them had trust in it. Like no trust.
Right.
Or
I
something.
remember never trust is right. Yeah.
Well, and thanks to the flashbacks and everything now, those words make a lot more sense.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
What's going on? And I love this set. That candle room is just, you know, and the names of all of their fallen and stuff on the floor around with the candles surrounding them and all that. I don't know if Grace Walker designed that or somebody else came up with that idea writing it into the script or what have you, but I think that's just a beautiful and creepy set all at the same time.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
I should mention, according to Wikipedia, that was indeed Rick's watch. I don't know if it's the one Carol gave him or not, but that's what it says.
Yeah, okay.
So, like we're getting to, Carol goes into that room with the candles. Yes, it is very creepy, but also very beautiful. It's supposed to be a kind of memorial more than anything else. She finds Mary, who we'll learn later, and I want to mention this now before I forget, that Mary is Gareth's mom. She was also Alex's mom. Alex was, of course, the one who was in the flashback in the beginning, and who I didn't mention, but is on the slab in the kill room. Like, because he's dead, they're going to eat him too. You know, it's not just them eating their own. But this is where Mary gives Carol kind of the short but important backstory of what happened. Like we kind of mentioned, they were a sanctuary, and then the wrong people got there, just like Joe and the Claimers were going to do last season. They got there, they started killing, they started raping, they started all kinds of terror, and eventually Mary and her sons and the rest broke out, took back over, and like we said, they promised this was never going to happen again. They weren't going to trust anyone, and they became these institutional cannibals.
The likely way to proceed after horrible things happen.
Like you do. You know,
Like you
we've all
do,
heard the story before. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Hey man, there's no denying good barbecue even after the apocalypse.
Yeah,
you know what I
those later seasons of Gilligan's Island really hit home. That's what I can say about that.
Remind me, what was the information Carol was trying to get out of Mary? Was it just where everyone was being held?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
my friends are.
And she does this by shooting Mary in the leg after they have a bit of a tussle. She shoots Mary in the leg, she opens the door, she lets the zombie in, and that is the end of Mary. I think we don't necessarily agree,
You
but-
gloss right over her line though, and I love that. You know, when Mary's talking about, you know, us being in the here and now and what we deal with and what we've become, and you're either the butcher or
the cattle.
But the line that Carol delivers, you know, like I said when you introduced me at the beginning of the episode, is, you're not here and neither am I, and then opens the door to the zombies. That was just a great line sequence, shot well. I just loved it. I just gave a yeah at the TV. You know?
Yeah, but Melissa McBride's audition reel for the next Expendables movie is really strong in this episode.
Lady Rambo.
Meanwhile, while all this is happening, Rick and crew are making their way out of the kill room. Rick had kind of hidden away a sharp piece of wood in the leg of his pants, and once the two butchers were distracted by everything going on outside, he killed both of them, he got the other guys free. They start making their way out, they find weapons, meat cleavers mostly, and machetes and stuff to start off, and they start making their way out of the kill room and start killing some zombies. And Rick finally surprises one of the termites with an AK-47, or a type of automatic rifle, I wasn't paying that close attention to what it was, but he takes him down, and then he just mows down 5 or 6 termites in the back with the...
You forgot the Alan Moore cameo.
Was that before or after this? I thought that was after this.
No, it was before.
That was before.
Because Glenn tells him he has to do it. You know, I don't think Rick at first wants to try to free the other, open the other
Yeah,
train car or
it's
whatever.
before they go outside completely. Like they're watching
They
what's
don't have
happening,
guns yet.
and they hear the screams of the other container.
If we're going to remain us, we have to do it.
They open that container, and they find inside Charles Manson, and then they put him back in because he's a crazy person.
No, put him back in. That was zombies.
No.
Oh, that's true.
he's got-
Yeah, he's like the guy's like he's holding on to Glenn, and then like walkers just get him. And then
And what is he shouting? We're the same,
Yeah,
we're the same.
yeah,
Yeah, with his name.
And then
And
Glenn
Glenn takes a baseball bat to him and the zombie.
yeah,
Catharsis.
and then,
Now I'm still trying to hold on to the theory that that's Negan, because if you look closely at that scene, the zombie shoves him down, and it looks like he's biting at his neck, but then Glenn hits the zombie with the bat, so maybe he didn't bite him and he's going to come back as Negan. That's my theory. My conventional thinking.
I don't know. I doubt it, but we'll see.
I doubt it too, but I'm still going to wish it.
I don't know. I kind of side with Rick on this one a little bit. I mean, I agree with Glenn that yes, they need to save the people, but wouldn't it be smart to, I don't know, take out all the termites and clear the place of zombies before you free the other people who you don't know who they are or if they're dangerous?
Yeah, I was thinking like, what if the train car's full of people just like Rick's crew with handmade shivs and everything in their hand, waiting to attack?
that's what I was more worried about. Yeah, the idea
that's what I was
the idea
thinking.
of freeing them didn't bother me. It was more of well, what's gonna happen if they do them?
Yeah, at least whispering through the door, hey, we were captive too and we got free. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah, but I mean, it's the kind of thing I can forgive in a situation such as this one where it's just chaos, and it's not like I expect Rick to double back later later on be like, hey, let's get the container now. It's like more of, well, people screaming for help. I guess we should probably open this container now and then go from there. I'm willing to go along with the show on that one.
Well, I think he
It was
would
a
have
little
screamed out, something before he opened the door. Hey, we're rescuing you, or something like that. But I agree with them letting them out then, because technically speaking, they don't know when they get to the open part of Terminus, their only chance to survive may to be immediate escape, and then they can't circle back and rescue those people. So I think Glenn had it right there. If we're going to remain who we are, we have to let them loose.
I like if it comes down to like the show attempting to give me some humanity of these characters in the little time that it has to do so. A line like that for Glenn is makes a lot more sense than watching a lot of the shoe leather needed to really get the explanation across that you can kind of glean from a couple scenes.
Fair enough.
That's a moving past that, just cool action stuff. When Rick kind of like moves to the car and tries to watch the termite guys going after like the other
Oh,
walkers.
in the mirror.
Rearview mirror. That was a very cool shot. I love that. And then when like a zombie when a walker comes up when a zombie comes up behind Rick and then they're like stabbed in the head. That was pretty awesome.
And Rick just gives a look up. Oh yeah,
He's
thanks.
like, yeah, buddy, bros for life.
For a split second, you think it's Daryl, like leaning over to tell him something.
Yeah.
And then you realize it's a walker. I'm like, oh well.
But
also, Daryl didn't grab a machete or whatever. He grabbed a lead pipe.
Yeah.
Which is, I thought was very interesting. He like broke a lead pipe off the wall.
It wasn't off the wall. Wasn't it off like one of those barbecue smokers?
It was
Like one of the fixtures, I thought. Yeah.
So meanwhile, there's gonna be a lot of meanwhiles in this one. Back at the cabin, Martin is talking to Tyrese again, trying to talk his ear off. And hey, you're a good guy, but you're gonna die because of that. You need to just take this baby, get in the van, and leave. Just go, because if you stay, bad things are gonna happen. And Tyrese doesn't want to deal with it. Then there's some zombies at the door, and Tyrese goes to look at them real quick, and that gives Martin enough time to run over to Judith, put his hands around her neck, and threaten to break her neck if Tyrese does not put all his weapons on the floor, and then go outside. So Tyrese does this. He doesn't want to kill the zombies because he doesn't want to kill, period, but he does, and we see the aftermath later. It's quite brutal. And then right when Martin starts to hear that there's no more noise going on outside, he goes to the door. It bursts open, and Tyrese. We don't see this for most of it. We see him punch him a few times, but we know by the end that Martin did not survive that particular encounter.
Do we know
While Tyrese
I
died.
don't know that
I don't
for
know
sure,
that either,
because my whole thing there is later when Carol goes in, like she's going to finish him or something, and Tyrese is like, yeah, don't worry, he's dead. I beat him to death. I think Tyrese was covering because he didn't want to kill him. I think that he beat him unconscious and left him, and that's simply what it is. I have a feeling that he's going to end up being found by Gareth, and it's going to be the formation of their revenge party.
I completely agree. I can't say for certain, but him just yelling "I won't" while beating him senseless. Yeah, it's a beating he gets, but I don't know if he killed him. I don't know if he went that far.
For me, I was in your camp until the camera pulled out and showed you outside the cabin with how brutally all the zombies were basically dismembered. And for me, that was the show telling us that switch has flipped, and he is back in the I will do what needs to be done.
I disagree. I don't think the switch has flipped. I think because he wouldn't kill the zombie on the railroad tracks, when he got forced to go outside, his survival instinct kicked in. He had no choice. He was either going to die from the zombies or he had to defend himself. I mean, it was a survival instinct.
But that wasn't just killed. That was brutal. What was out there? That was
When
overkill.
you have only your hands, I don't know how else you're supposed to kill walkers though. Like you nail one in a spike and probably stomps on the other one once you got him on the ground or something. I mean, it's when you have just your mitts to work with. I mean, you can't make it.
Time will tell, I guess, but I'm sticking with my guns here.
I think he's still alive.
That was one of my favorite shots of this episode, by the way, was them panning out from him, saying I won't, beating on him to pan that slow pan out, showing the destruction he left behind with all the walkers and stuff.
It was a good shot.
Yeah, it really stood out for me.
So, meanwhile, back at the train car, back at the ranch, the survivors are talking to Dr. Porter, Eugene, of course, and they're trying to get him to tell them what the cure is. And he's, you wouldn't know if I explained it to you, even if I gave you charts and everything, you wouldn't know what to do. But he eventually says he was working with the Human Genome Project, and he believes that they can fight fire with fire and basically put out a new disease that will kill all the zombies, but leave all the humans intact, which I don't know is the greatest plan ever, but it's a plan. And so he wants to get the DC to release that, like he has already explained.
Yeah.
He spun the BS very well right there.
Yeah, getting an understanding where Eugene's coming from. Knowing the book, I know a certain way of where this character will go, but I'm not sure how the show plans to treat him. But with that said, I did like the way it was addressed here, and I like how Abraham and Rosita, they're there to support him. So clearly they buy into what's going on. So we'll see.
Well, and it's a nice mirror to the termites where they have their institutional plan. Abraham very much so, and Rosita as well, maybe not as much, but especially Abraham, he has put himself to this mission to keep him going forward. We talked about it a lot last season, but it's a nice mirror there. It doesn't matter how bad I might think Porter's plan is. It's a plan, and that's what Eugene needs. That's what's going to keep him going. He's going to stand by that no matter what.
I think Josh McDermott does a good job as Eugene, and I think at this scene he does a good job of selling his plan to the rest of Rick's group and selling it to the audience. Since this is going to be something that's going to drive the plot forward going forward in the season, I think this is as much as the action and everything else happens, this is a very crucial scene because he actually is making. He already has Abraham on his side. He is a believer. Yeah. I think this is part of the his induction of everyone else into his cause.
It's funny because again, this comes from watching multiple times. So watching Josh McDermott perform as Eugene, you see him give that speech, and then like he kind of at the very end he kind of turns in a little half smile, which just shows like the confidence he has, and we don't know exactly what, but just that he said what he needs to say about what he is. He's the answer, and I like that he says like sounds pretty badass to me. Like he delivers that very well, and that makes me like that character more.
I wouldn't say I'm a hero. People say that about me all the time, but. So Rick and his crew meet up with everybody else in the train car. They let them free, and they make their way out of the train car into the woods.
Can we pause real quick? Rick opening the train car door. The opening of that door, like seeing the chaos that's outside. I love that. That's the kind of zombie apocalypse that you kind of like want to see every now and then. Where it's just fire everywhere. There's walkers and people getting eaten. There's gunfire. Like it's just this example of just chaos. And I just love that. Like Carl's like, where's the dad? And then the door opens like, Carl, let's go! Like everything's crazy going on outside the door. I just love seeing that.
Gareth leads some of his men out and attacks them. They shoot most of them. Gareth is winged, like I think that's how Aaron put it earlier, but clearly not dead. We'll see him again, I'm sure. They make their way out to the woods. Rick digs up a bag of weapons, and he wants to return to Terminus and kill everybody. None of them get to live, but he is overwhelmingly voted down.
Which when they run into Carol too, right?
Right, but let's hold that for a second and just go with, should they have killed everybody inside? Because I'm voting overwhelming yes.
Yes. I think that they had the upper hand. They knew what was going on with the chaos, even though they hadn't even seen Carol yet. That's about to come. They know that, they're definitely grounded now, and they have a good layout of what is happening. And, I mean, just to avoid things later, they should have learned from the governor. I mean, they didn't kill him when they had the chance. They should have offed him, but let him run off on his own with his tail between his legs, and it came back and ended up costing Herschel's life. This should have happened. Rick was right. They should have gone back in and slaughtered them.
Well, even beyond that, if they don't kill all of them, they will just go back to doing exactly what they've been doing. And if I'm not saying this necessarily for myself, but if I'm part of Rick's crew their mentality, letting that type of thing happen to anyone else because they didn't stop them, even if it doesn't come back to bite them, if it goes and just lets this thing continue on, that's horrifying.
Even from a purely pragmatic outlook, Don, you think of all the supplies, weapons,
yeah.
body armor, all the stuff that even if they didn't want to stay in there because, I mean, it has the stench of human flesh all over it or whatever, all the things they could have gotten that would help them, even if they were to go somewhere else.
Michonne's katana.
Yeah. I think there's an understanding that I can buy into in terms of everyone else disagreeing what Rick doesn't, just because it's emphasizing Rick's state of mind. I think it plays more to the themes of where the characters are rather than logical sense, which is not always the best way to go about making a show work. But in terms of where Rick's character is at, it makes sense for him to say that. In terms of where the other characters are at, I get why they would kind of turn down the idea. Like last we saw Rick, he was biting off throats and going to town on people in the best ways possible. Everyone else is more or less grounded in some other kind of reality that's not quite as far gone as Rick may be. Again, that's just speaking to kind of what the show wants to present thematically as opposed to logically, but that's kind of how I see it, I guess.
Season 1 Rick wouldn't have shot all those people in the back.
Yeah.
Right.
Season 5 Rick does it immediately.
Quick question, because I'm trying to remember, did Michonne even have the katana when they went in, or is it possible that it was in the bags? Okay, she did.
Like I said, samurai, archer, and whatever Rick's guys.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I'm not sure Gareth will have the sword, because they want to brand his dad. Like,
Good point. True.
Oh, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
So, like Jim said earlier, Carol then appears, and it's a nice big reunion, hugs all around. Daryl actually starts crying, runs over, hugs her, picks her up.
Feels so good. Oh, sorry.
Can we just not talk about Daryl and Carol? Can we do that? Is that a thing we can do?
It was a nice reunion.
It was
definitely
nice. It's a great reunion. It's a great reunion of people that have bonded very closely. Does it matter if they're lovers or whatever? I don't think so. I just think
I agree, but it was still very nice.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great moment.
So she leads them to Tyrese and Judith, and Sasha and Tyrese have a nice reunion. Rick, Carl, and Judith have a nice reunion. Everybody's happy all around, except maybe Abraham, who just wants to take Eugene to Washington, and he doesn't really care about all their hugging.
To me, this is kind of the first time that Rick really acknowledges any sort of parental bond with Judith. I mean, everything since she's been born, Rick has just been off his rocker or emotionally torn or focused on revenge or whatever. This is the first time that I feel that he showed any parental bond at all.
I don't know that I agree with that. I'm trying to think of specific examples. I just think it's been a while more than anything else.
Well, I think more.
I mean, the whole farming thing with him and Carl, that was all about growing closer to his family.
I guess I can see him. They're not, really showing it necessarily because you more or less assume it because he has a baby, so you just assume that a father loves his child. But I guess the impression I get more when it comes to Rick and Judith is the kind of emotional turmoil he faced when thinking that Judith was dead. Same with Carl, that Judith was dead. He just didn't know what happened. So I guess seeing him bonding, especially for the first time in 8 episodes or whatever, they've seen his baby girl. Yeah, there's something there.
And let's not forget, he thought she was dead until that very moment.
Right. I'm just saying that the show itself, I feel that they have treated Judith more as a prop than a character and a part of the group. And now
babies are essentially props. Let's be fair here.
She is the most well-behaved baby I know of, because if that was my son Jack, who's like just a year old or so, he would not have been quite so quiet with a giant crowd of smelly zombies coming by.
It's so well-behaved, it makes me question why Mike Jones is very adamant about not liking Judith, but that's just me. I don't know.
We should also mention, because it got glossed over a little bit, Carol, when she was still just with Tyrese, she said she was going to free everybody, but that she wasn't going to stay once they were all together. However, Rick does ask her once they're reunited, was that you in there? She says yes, and it seems like everything smoothed over. It seems like, at least as far as I can tell with the whole Rick, Tyrese, Carol, Daryl thing, that everybody's cool with everybody. Would you all agree with that?
In my notes, I wrote bygones. So
she just saved him from becoming Grimes jerky. I mean, I kind of would, let bygones be bygones at that point for sure. Save me from the supper table.
The one with the biggest extra would be Tyrese, I would think. And he's kind of already made his peace with her at the end of the Grove, so.
And I should also say, it seems like Carol has made her peace with Rick. Yeah. And she always seemed kind of fine on that front, but there doesn't seem to be any animosity from anybody on that.
And all of this, and that just kind of included, is what's making me feel that Carol's time is running out.
I hope not, but it's possible. I certainly see
I hope not, too, because her character has become totally interesting, and, luckily, Martin isn't writing the show, so.
You can go back and listen to the very first episode. Yeah, I always thought she's one of the strongest actors in the series, in the ensemble.
Oh, yeah,
I hope she doesn't go.
I hope so neither, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, given various resolutions of a lot of plot lines for her at this point, and you already have Michonne as kind of the de facto badass weak female character, it's like, how much do we need Carol? I mean, if they killed her, it would suddenly make Daryl a lot more interesting, because he would not be happy with that, that's for sure. And they're not going to kill Daryl, we know that. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen.
No arrives.
Yeah.
So they follow the tracks towards Washington, D.C., and Rick grabs some dirt and changes one of the terminus signs, so it now reads No Sanctuary, and everything else is crossed out, giving us our title. Of course, I have to ask, how useful is that going to be once it rains? But hey, at least
I was thinking the same thing.
We then have our closing flashback back to then, and the terminus inhabitants continue to be assaulted. This is when we see that big tattooed guy, pre-long hair and tattoos, as he brings Mary back from a unpleasant session, shall we say, and grabs another woman. And Gareth tells his group that they're going to take this place back over, and that they're going to need to become the butcher, and we get that reiteration of either the butcher or the cattle mantra, shall we say.
Yeah.
And then in a post-credit scene.
Now, real quick, did you guys see this? Did you guys see this like the first time you watched it?
See what?
There was a post-credit scene, because I don't like to watch the credits because I don't like to see the previews for the next week's show. So the first time I watched this, I had no idea there was one until I started seeing online there was a post-credit scene. So that's when I put on the DVR again and zoomed all the way to the end and find, oh, there's a thing after this. But I didn't see it the first time around.
My wonderful DVR cut off just as he was pulling the mask, but luckily at the beginning of recording of Talking Dead, it caught it, so I got to see it, and I was excited.
Yeah, I'm recording right straight through from one to the next, so I always catch that part. But yes, we have a post-credit scene set at some point in the future after Rick marks up the sign, but before the next rain, apparently, because we see a hooded figure. Not really. Well, I guess he does have a hood and a mask.
So yeah, he's completely hooded, he has a mask, which has no reason except for to have a dramatic close-up on his face. That's the only reason.
And covered in beard stuff as well, because it was kind of hard to tell is this male, female, what? Because I actually thought Beth at first. Even though we know in the trailer what she is, I thought, oh, well, this is before we saw the mask. This is just when we see them from the back.
I guess, all right.
I would recognize Beth from the back, trust me. That
with all that stuff on there, it was enough to confuse me. But regardless, the person sees the No Sanctuary sign, they then turn and see that we see that they are covered head to toe in cloth, so you can't see their face, to which I went, oh gosh, what are we setting up now that we're going to have to see this hooded figure for the rest of the season and not know who it is? But they don't do that, which was wonderful. The person removes their mask, and we see it's Morgan Jones, played by Lenny James, who is back for his now third appearance. He steps off the track, he looks at the trees. Interestingly, I think it's a different direction than the Wrecking Crew went, but we can talk about that in a second. He sees a hobo code type symbol carved into a tree, a sideways X inside of a circle, and another one in the distance, and he starts following them into the woods, and that's the end of the episode. Go.
Yeah, it was. He did walk a different direction, it seemed like. He was like, all right, he's all these X's.
Did we notice, you saw it 3 times, Aaron.
Yeah.
Did you notice in the scene where Rick is covering up the sign, can you see any of those X's in the background?
I didn't notice it at all, no. I didn't try to look for it, I can say that, so I guess.
Get on that, listeners. Let us know on the Facebook group.
But I don't even know if the shot that would be, allow you to be able to see something like that, but yeah.
That's a good point.
That said, yeah, okay, so Morgan's back. Yay! It's
Looking good, by the way. He doesn't seem crazy, at least in that scene.
Oh yeah, we'll see. But it's only in like a show like this or in a comic book would you have a character that's only dressed to the nines in like gear to shield himself, only to dramatically take it off and not put it back on, just so the camera can have a giant zoom up and reveal who his character is. That's funny.
Can I also congratulate the show on having 3 black male characters in an episode and not a single one died? Because that's awesome for the show.
Nice change of pace. A lot of females died though. I saw a lot of zombies fighting women. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Only one named one though. All of our other survivors survived, which was
Good job, Richard, for taking a hit for the team.
Yes. So let's talk about the episode in general. I had mentioned the 2 zombie effects, one I loved, one I didn't love. There's I forget who takes the actual hit, but someone hits a zombie in the neck, and its head lops off so far to the side without being disconnected. I thought that was one of the coolest zombie kills I've seen.
That's what you get with Nicotero, you know.
But then also you had the one where the one termite gets knocked on his back and starts crawling backwards for no apparent reason. They could have just stood up and run. And then you have, and they talk about this in Talking Dead and how, they're so happy to be able to do this with this puppet on fire, but it looked like a puppet on fire, just like kind of like pecking like a chicken at the guy's face as his nose disappears in a red mist. It was the fakest looking thing I've ever seen on this show, and that includes the CDC explosion.
Yeah, I tweeted at that point, zombies roasting on an open fire, dead dude nipping at your nose.
I think Puppet on Fire is going to be my 70s glam cover band.
No, I think my band name is Red Handled Machete. I think that's a great band name. So, which I'm hoping we see resurface with it in Garrett's skull.
I think we have to. You don't put a line like that in a show without coming back to it. It's very analogous to a Chekhov's gun. It's there for a reason.
Oh, it's called foreshadowing, son.
Exactly. But yeah, in general, I thought the zombie effects were great. That one in particular was laughably bad.
I mean, I wasn't laughing about it. It was whatever. It's not one that stands. It's not one that stood out enough for me to be like, man, show really dropped the ball there. Apparently, you and Brad apparently did, but I was like, whatever.
I don't think it would have stuck up so much if it weren't for the already 20 seconds of the guy crab walking backwards.
Yeah, I did point that out. That's something I was just like, oh, am I walking? It's been disabled. Like, I was yelling at the TV with my friends.
Like it was already drawing attention to itself, and that's what made it bad. I think had it just been one zombie kill among the rest, whatever. But that one right there, it just stood out to me as a really bad one.
Also, if it wouldn't have been a close up, I think if it had been a medium shot, it would
True,
have
well,
been a little bit better. Yeah.
Oh well. So, gentlemen, we talked about the episode in full. What are your Buster ratings for this episode? Of course, we rating on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. How many Busters do you give this episode? Aaron, your name starts with A, so let's go with you first.
I'm gonna go a good 4 out of 5 Busters. I really liked this episode. I thought it was a lot of fun, given the mass chaos and tension that there was in there. But I mean, for season opener of The Walking Dead, it certainly went big. It was like last year with that whole abandoned supermarket area. This one's a lot like that. Just a lot of you got the group in a big tight pickle, and they managed to get out of it in the most explosive way possible, and it was very cool for that way.
Jim, what did you think of the episode?
I give it a 4.5. It has a lot of what I watched The Walking Dead for. Cool zombie action. I'm glad the plot got moved along. We didn't spend a whole half season dealing with Terminus and whatnot. I love the stuff with Carol. I thought it was really some really well shot scenes. Just kind of like I said, the environmental storytelling really got to me. I really enjoyed that, and I thought it was great. 4.5 out of 5.
Richard, what did you think?
I've always wanted to have an episode where I give it a 5, and I kind of was at that point when get towards the end of the episode, but then I got to think about it. I have to detract a little bit for 2 reasons. One, the zombie face eating scene we just discussed was a little not so great, and then the continuation of keeping Tyrese a complete opposite of what he is in the comics and just a total terrible character. I got to take it down to 4.75. So.
I, however, will give it a full 5. Yeah, the zombie face eating part was pretty awful. But aside from that, that was such a little thing. This episode was really, really solid. I mean, I'll agree with everything else everybody's saying positive. That it got a half-season long story we expected out in an episode was wonderful. The action was really good. I was, on the edge of my seat the whole time. It kept moving at a very good pace. And even the little things that they did, like, Mary giving her little exposition or Martin in the cabin, those are things that in another episode might have bothered me, but I think they kept them just succinct enough to let me kind of look right past them. In past seasons, past episodes, we would have seen those, we would have seen 3 or 4 scenes with Martin instead of just those 2 little quick things. We would have had a 3-minute monologue from Mary instead of that, short 30-second thing. They're learning from their mistakes, and I think that deserves to be rewarded. And certainly for me as a viewer, I much appreciated the succinctness of those scenes. So I'm going to give it the full 5. I really did enjoy this one.
Good, yeah. I agree with everything you said. The Busters mean very little to me in terms of like what they represent.
It's all arbitrary. I don't remember the
that's why I wrote 1,800 words about The Walking Dead, as opposed to just narrowing it down to 4 things.
Exactly.
But yeah, unfortunately, guys, I got to take off. I got to jet this one early. But of course, always happy to talk with you guys about The Walking Dead, and I'll be back next week.
We love having Aaron. And for listeners, they can follow you at Aaron's PS4 on Twitter. And of course, they should always check out There with Aaron and Abe, your weekly new movie release show.
And don't forget about the Ichabod Cranecast, the Sleepy Hollow podcast that you and Brandon are doing with Sleepy Hollow this season. Yeah, I've been listening to that, and that show is another great horror show on TV, and you guys do a great job covering it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm certainly keeping busy in the podcasting world. And yeah, you can feel free to read my written reviews of The Walking Dead over at theyoungfolks.com. I make sure to post this on the Facebook page all the time too. So yeah, guys, I'll talk to you all later.
Have a good one. Talk to you next week.
Good talking to you.
Yeah, Rich.
So before we get to what our listeners thought of the episode, let's take a minute to talk about our sponsor. Jim, Rich, you both read comic books?
Occasionally.
You just outed me on national podcasting. Yes, okay, I read comics, okay?
What's the worst thing about comic books aside from the fact that nobody stays dead?
The fact that you have to wait a month for the next issue?
Well, I'd agree with you that sucks, Rich. I'm going to go with Jim here. It's the price. You're spending $3.99 on a book for 20 pages or $4.99 on a book for 32 pages. Comics are expensive. It's an expensive hobby, and even though it's rewarding and I love it, I'm looking for a way to save some money, and guess what? We found one. It's dcbservice.com. That's right, discount comic book service at dcbservice.com. Go there. You can get not only the comics you're looking for at a great discount. They have sales all the time on new stuff, on old stuff, on very special sales, but you're always going to save at least some money, and it's always a nice chunk of change you're going to be saving there. You can also save money on t-shirts and statues and toys and bottle openers, any comic book related merchandise you can think of, and even some non-comic book related merchandise, just cool nerd stuff. You're going to find it there at dcbservice.com. It's a great resource. It's a great website, great customer service. They've been supporting us for a while now. If you're listening to the show for the first time, or if you're listening to the show for the 100th time, you should absolutely check them out because they are great people, great website, and great savings.
And you got your holiday seasons coming up, your Christmas, your Kwanzas, your Chaka-Cons, your Festivus.
Absolutely.
Hanukkah, of course. All this kind of shopping for the Walking Dead fan in your life. Why not get them a Michonne hoodie or a Rick action figure? Or I know we were talking about one of the shows that were off season or whatever, but the Daryl with his bike on the McFarlane toy place that is
that
incredible.
Was really cool.
That would look awesome under somebody's Festivus pole, Christmas tree, or Hanukkah bush. And DCBService.com has that stuff discounted a lot cheaper even than you'll find it on Amazon. So check out the prices. Check out their site, DCBService.com.
It's stuff you want, but that you don't want to have to pay full price for, and you shouldn't have to. And at DCBService.com, you don't. So check it out, and we thank them for supporting this program. So I know we said we were going to get to our Facebook listeners and what they thought of the episode, but let's take a step back. They're the most important. So let's just go to America in general. Rich, what did America in general think of this episode? What were the Nielsen ratings?
Well, the ratings for the season 5 debut were the highest ever for any Walking Dead episode.
Which seems to happen every year.
Yeah.
It pulled in a 17.3 million total viewers for the first showing.
Good Lord.
I don't have a number for the second showing yet. But 11 million of that 17 was in the 18 to 49 demographic, which is what's most important. It had a 6% rise over last season's debut for that demographic. And last season we were at 16.1 for the viewership so we've gone up another million. This show continues to defy television ratings by continuing as it gets older in the series and further in. Ratings are going up instead of falling off like they do with most television shows. Most importantly, there's always been the discussion about Sunday Night Football and having so much Sunday night programming. Well, that is double the ratings that Sunday Night Football got last night.
Wow.
Which, I mean, I kind of see why, because it was the Philadelphia Eagles over the New York Giants, but still,
Hey, that's big in my part of the neck of the woods. Not that I care about it, but that's a big day.
But so definitely a big winner. Big winner.
And what was the, you said how many millions it was, but it was a what in the ratings? Like a 2.3 or 5.6? What was the number there? Do you have that number?
I don't have that number. I'm looking at Deadline.com for the numbers, and that's all it gives me there. I don't have any other numbers for it.
Hold on, I'm curious. I'm going to look it up myself. Let's see here. Okay, so I found it. They had an 8.2 in the ratings. And an 8.7 in the 18 to 49 demographic. Now, for anybody who doesn't know what that means, first off, we should also say Talking Dead had 6.9 million viewers and 4.5 million in the 18 to 49 demographic, which is incredible. For how little that show has to cost. That is really impressive. An 8.7 or an 8.2, which is the overall ratings, means that for every 100 people watching television last night in the United States, it is estimated 8.2 of them were watching The Walking Dead. You don't see numbers like that on television anymore, and you haven't for a long time. That is insane. AMC should be just patting each other on the back right now, because that doesn't happen anymore.
It's interesting about The Talking Dead because an after show having that kind of ratings, and it's interesting that AMC today announced that they're canceling all of their reality-based programming except for The Talking Dead and Comic Book Men, because those are definitely pulling in the numbers for them. So they're going to focus more on their scripted show stuff. But Talking Dead, I mean, they went from half hour to the hour, and I even want more of that, especially when they have Gimple and Nicotero on, because you learn so much more about the inside of making the episode.
They had a 3.4 in the ratings for Talking Dead last night. I'm pretty sure that's higher than any scripted programming on NBC last year. Like, that's just insane. And it was a really good episode too. I was a little bit trepidatious about going in on there because he has a tendency to monopolize conversation, but even he did great.
I thought he was wonderful.
That was a fun episode. So enough of what America thinks. Who cares about America? Jim, what did our listeners think about this episode? Anybody who's listening to the show for the first time, go to Facebook.com, look up the group for the Walking Dead TV podcast. That's where all this is being pulled from. We love our listeners. We love interacting with them, and we love to know what they thought about the episode.
Well, we got a lot of comments on this episode, of course, being the premiere and everything. Roger Austin, 5 masked Morgans, great start to the season. And I love that most of the crews back together, brutal scenes, tons of walkers, tons of drama. Terry Bernard, I was pretty pleased. I'll give it 4.5 Morgan Stingers. Belinda Clark Cake, I give it a 4, except for Daryl and Carol were reunited, and Rick, Carl, and Judith, so 4.5. Brent Jones, 5 out of 5, fantastic start, and Morgan! I'm assuming that's kind of like the way Shatner yells Khan in Wrath of Khan. So,
which one of our heroes did Morgan kill then? I don't remember.
I don't know. No, he didn't kill him. He just left him locked inside of an asteroid in space. Craig DeMonde says gives 5 dead termites out of 5. This was The Walking Dead at its finest. Bear McCreary's score was simply perfect. Morgan's back. I guess he's finished clearing. Pamela Burton, 5 out of 5, best episode yet in the series. 5 out of 5 double-edged Michonne Katanas from Monica Smith and Osito. Totally awesome episode. Put me on an emotional roller coaster. Everard Santa Marina. I'm going to guess I missed Morgan, or he was in the previews for next week. Well, he was after the credits, so you're close, Everard. The episode, however, I have to give 5 propane-fueled fireworks displays out of 5. Incredibly brutal. This has to be the sickest thing I've seen on television. Now I realize the first guy was the hipster guy we saw with the girl with the tattoo on her calf that bought it by the house that last season. It may get a lot of flack from the powers. The being cable programming for being too over the top. Mike Jones, 4 filet of foes out of 5. Some poor CGI moments, and Judith. Yeah, Mike does not like Judith. Craig DeMonde just literally put a picture of Morgan up and said, enough said. Jason Watson, 5 out of 5 propane walker bombs. There's a discussion as to whether or not Terminus is well explained enough or not in the episode. I think it was, personally. But the debate goes on in our Facebook group if you'd like to join it.
They talked about it some on Talking Dead. They gave like a fuller explanation of the mechanics and how it worked. And while as a nerd I thought that stuff was really interesting and fascinating, I didn't need it in the episode. I thought the episode gave us plenty. That stuff is interesting, but it's not important to the story, really.
Again, I appreciate the way they let the rooms and the environment kind of tell a lot of the story rather than having to come out and tell us, spell everything out word for word. You know what I mean? I really appreciate that about it rather than having it all spoon-fed to me. So,
absolutely.
I'll say again, giant kudos to Grace Walker for the set design, and just does a good job.
Brian Fuqua, definitely 5. Oh, this is a really long run-on sentence, right? 5, use as many candles as you can because it's not like you'll ever run out of electricity. I just realized this run-on phrase doesn't really apply here as a decent ratings now, but oh well, out of 5. Max for 4 out of 5 busters. So Morgan's cool and reunions are great and all, but can we just focus on how badass it is that Carol took down Terminus with a bottle rocket?
Now I understand why they're illegal in Texas.
David B. III is a 5.5 out of 5, almost twisted baby necks. Oh, that's over the top, so 5.5 out of 5 Battle Boys turned walkers. Superb return to television. Samantha Joppy, 4.5 out of 5 skin torsos. Great episode, but it took an entire half season to get here, and we resolve it in one episode? Question mark. A lot of people
say it like it's a bad thing.
I know. I kind of appreciate the brevity. There's also a lot of discussion here about whether we're going to see we've seen the last of Gareth, and I personally, as we said in the show, I don't think so. We got 4 out of 5 from Hezron Knack. Carol gets her Sigourney Weaver on. Really dark stuff. Got way gritty. Absolutely did. Phil Perry gives it 5 T-Dogs. No, T-Dog. Let's pour one out for him. Love Carol's wrecking shop like Denzel. Mick Muse gave it, honestly, I would have given it 5 based on the last 5-second Morgan reveal alone. Love Morgan. She has a lot more to say, but basically 5 out of 5 from her. 4 out of 5 still missing Beths from Robert Negro. Gotta watch it again. Loved it, but my rating reflects my thought the episode pulled back from some obvious things that should have been carried through. 4.5 Old School Busters from Mary Terpecchia. This is one of the best openers for the season since the pilot. Had me right from the beginning. And Richard Chopperberry Charrington gives it 10 out of 10 Busters. I think I may have just witnessed the best episode ever of The Walking Dead. It had it all: walkers, explosions, the group almost reuniting, come home, Beth, flashbacks, and Morgan had me on the edge of my seat all the way through. Carry on like the season 5, and I'll be happy as a cannibal dining on a 200-pound corpse. I appreciate the sentiment there, sir. If you would like to be a part of our Facebook group, and if you listen to the show and if you watch that show, The Walking Dead, you really do want to, because we post a lot of the news and stuff going on there. We post the new shows there, and we have a lively discussion usually going on as the episodes go on. We are over 600 members strong in our Facebook group, and you definitely are welcome to join. It's a very friendly group, unlike some other places on the internet. It's the Walking Dead TV podcast group on the Facebooks.
Very nice. So two other things from the episode we might want to touch on real quick. One was brought up there by our listeners. No Beth this episode. It doesn't look like we're going to see her next week, not judging by the previews and the synopsis already at the end of the episode. How long do you think it's going to be till we see her? Are we thinking episode 3, or are we thinking not till towards the end of this first half?
I'm thinking towards the mid-season is where they should go with that, but I'd be happy to see her sooner, just to see the supposed implied Daryl, Carol, Beth love triangle that's going to happen.
Fight to the death.
Oh, you shipper.
Yeah, Richard, full of ship.
Yes.
The other thing I really liked, and I think we talked about just briefly, but I loved the improvised weapons they made.
Oh, yeah.
The double-bladed lightsaber type thing for Michonne, the zipper weapons, the Wolverine-style claw on Abraham, and the bent earrings on Rosita. Like, that stuff was really cool and inventive.
And Rick using the chain to saw the piece.
It was a zipper. That was a zipper off of his coat.
Yeah.
Oh, was it? I was wondering,
Yeah.
because I guess I missed him take it off his coat or something, because I was thinking, did somebody have dog tags or something? Was that okay?
Oh, it was. And I actually thought he was trying to sharpen the zipper to make like a garrote, but it was so he could saw out that piece of wood for the shank in his boot or in his pant leg. But yeah, just that whole like go for the eyes. That it was awesome to see them all in full-on badass mode. I loved it. So, do we have anything else to say about this week's episode before we close it out? And then after the closeout, talk about next week's episode?
The only thing I have to add is I hope that this is a setting for the season to come. Not that I'm not wanting it to be here. We're going to blow all this action and money in this first episode and then have some bottled episodes in between. I want this to be the pace for this entire season. Just, crazy run out action, all kinds of crap going on, danger left and right, character exposition. Just, this needs to be what we have for the season.
I don't know that I need the pace to match necessarily, although something closer to this would be nice. But I do hope it's indicative of the quality level for the rest of the season.
Yes.
I think this is really, as far as the ratings jump, I think it's really benefited from being on Netflix consistently since the show started. I know a lot of people have caught up and binge watched that way. And the fourth season came up, I think, just a week or two before the premiere of the fifth. So I know it's really benefited from that. The fifth, this opener really kind of kicked the inertia that kind of the moss on the tires, as it were, that kind of grown. And Aaron made a good point about being deep with characterization. I'm glad the action was kind of kicked up a notch here. Some really brutal stuff that I'm really surprised even made it on television. And this is like one of the most brutal shows on television. So saying that is really saying something. But overall, I really enjoyed it quite a bit.
One other thing for the listeners, we know a little bit more news about what the spin-off show is going to be. We're not going to talk about it right now just because this episode's already going kind of long, and we might want to save that for the mid-season to talk about when we know more, because what we know now is not enough to fill even a full conversation.
Character names is about it.
That's about it. But if you're looking for that information, it's all on the Walking Dead TV podcast Facebook group. You can find it all there, and we'll talk about it more. Hopefully we'll know more soon enough to have an actual entire conversation about it, not just, do you think Dave's a good name for a character? Because that's about what we have. So,
Dave's not here, man.
Dave has
I can't do that.
the name Dave has a certain heroic quality. Maybe he's
like King David.
I will like
Maybe
to
he'll kill a Goliath.
real quick before we sign off, though, if you're into the television, if you're into the genre TV, we have a lot of really cool television podcasts on the HHW LOD network right now. We have, like I said before, the Ichabod Cranecast from Aaron and Brandon, following Sleepy Hollow. We have the It's All Connected podcast, which is following Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., episode by episode as part of the Marvel movie universe.
And all the Marvel movies, and the upcoming Daredevil show on Netflix, which just has some new stuff released, and the other upcoming Marvel Netflix shows. It's going to be crazy.
Right, and we also have the DC TV podcast now, which is covering not only the new show Gotham, but the premiere of The Flash, new Flash series on CW. The Arrow just started their third season, and Constantine, which is going to be premiering later on in the month, along with a lot of other DC shows. It seems like they're in the pipeline, including Titans, Supergirl, iZombie, a lot of other cool things. So if you're into the television, if you're into the geeky television, you can listen to all those podcasts and more.
And even if you're not into the DC TV, if you're a fan of the melodious voice of Jim Dietz, that's his show right there. That's his baby. So we all love that voice.
I'm on the show
everyone's
with him, and
welcome.
I have to be woken up every once in a while because I'm just mesmerized by his golden throat.
Well, everyone's welcome. They watch the shows. But yeah, if you're into cool TV, if you're into superhero TV, genre TV, check out those podcasts. They're all part of our family.
We've had some fun discussions so far on that show too. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
And all of those shows, including many, many more, can be found at hhwlod.com or just go to walkingdeadtv.com. It'll take you to the same place, and you can find all the links right there. You can leave us a voicemail, 972-798-3830, 972-798-3830, or just send us an email, comments at walkingdeadtv.com. You can follow us on Twitter, at WDTV Podcast and at HHWLOD_network. Like I already said, Aaron is at Aaron's PS4, Jim is at Yoda Jones, Rich is at ChubToad01, and I am at Jordan FRM Jersey. And for the first time this season, folks, so until there's no more room left in hell and the earth, remember, we don't have to double back. Have a good week, everybody. And, spoiler warning, we're going to talk a little bit about next week's episode, so if you don't want to hear it, cut out now. But, next week's episode of The Walking Dead, episode 502, is entitled Strangers, and the synopsis we have from TVGuide.com is, with supplies running low, Rick leads a mission where the risk might not be worth the reward. And we know that Father Gabriel, a comic book character, will be showing up in this episode. We saw him a little bit in the preview. He's a preacher, and there's zombies. That's about what we know.
Okay. Sounds great. I'll be there.
for sure.
Quick tip from a chef: if you're barbecuing, don't use propane.
I'm not super effective.
You get that flash sear on there, but it also has that chemical act. So.
Have a good week, everybody. Ba-da-ba-ba-da.
I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes right now because I'm very self-involved and like to see that my walking interviews are on Rotten Tomatoes, and everyone they have like little blurbs from all the review critics. Mine it's the line they chose for my review is, it's nice to have this show back. That's what they chose.
Wow. It's pretty non-committal.
You got like these other ones are like really long. Like what's it like for a show that at times struggles to make the face of any people compelling. It's a powerful, effective sequence that leaves our group most reunited, well-armed. It's like all these words. Mine's just, it's nice to have the show back, guys.
So you need to work more on sound bites?
Apparently, because I don't write that way. Me and Jim, Scott Mendelson, like we try not to write like soundbite type lines.
That's probably why you end up with quotes like that, because
Yeah.
you actually write a complete sentence with one or two ideas in it. It's more than just what they can fit.
Just, I just check. It's just like that's the first thing.
Yeah. Well, at least they like quote one word. I love it when I see that.
Oh, yeah.
You see a lot of like 80s and 90s VHS boxes. Like those like the other quotes like wild, big,
Bold.
So before we get to what our listeners thought of the episode, let's talk about our sponsor, Jim.
Hey.
Russ wasn't here this week.
Hey, since you're going to have to edit there, can I run to the restroom really quick and we take
Oh, go right ahead.
All right,
Right
I'll be
ahead.
back.
Johnny, Ken, Brad, Frank.
Adam. The other one. No.
Just the other one.
I set my alarm today. I went to go get up, and then I looked at my phone, so I had a voicemail from work, and they asked me if I wanted to pick up shift today, which made me realize that I was off in the first place. So I didn't call them back, and I slept until 6 p.m.
Nice. Oh man, that's probably what I would do if I had the day off. So I got Titanfall and Wolfenstein, and I'm playing a lot of Titanfall. Wolfenstein is really hard, but every time I log on to even to just watch movies or whatever, it's like from Jersey playing GTA Online. I'm like, holy crap, it's 4 in the freaking morning.